Hi, I'm James Hamilton from Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal, and I'm testing out 8 premium saw blades to decide which ones are the best bang for your buck. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give some away. I've tried a lot of different table saw blades over the years. I used to buy cheap ones, but I learned that it makes a lot of sense to invest in good blades. Not only do they perform a lot better, but they just last longer and they can be resharpened many times. The problem is they're not cheap. You can easily spend well over $100 on one blade. But do you have to? Not at all. There are a number of high quality saw blades out there for right around or even considerably under $100. We've got a number of them in our 2 Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal shops. All of these blades are of excellent quality, but which ones perform the best for the cuts we make the most? The only way to find out is to make some cuts and compare them. Now, all of these blades are either brand new or have only made a few cuts, so they're equally clean and sharp. And they all cut a full 1/8 inch kerf. I'll put the model numbers and the prices in the notes below the video. Let's start with what I consider to be a general purpose blade. These are 40-tooth blades, and I use them for both rips and cross cuts. This is the type of blade I use the most because I don't want to switch back and forth between cross cut and rip blades all day long while I'm working. One is a $70 SawStop titanium blade, and the other is a $73 Amana PR1040. Let's see how they compare. While cross-cutting hardwood, I found that both the SawStop and the Amana performed equally well. They left light blade marks that are difficult to see but can be felt, and very light tear out. I suspect that if I would have had a proper zero clearance insert in my table saw, there wouldn't have been any tear out at all. Crosscuts in veneered plywood resulted in a tie between the SawStop and Amana blades as well. Neither left behind a particularly smooth surface, and both resulted in a fair amount of tear out. But that was to be expected with the 40-tooth blade. You really should use a finer blade on veneered plywood, as you'll see shortly. For rip cuts, the Amana really rose to the top. The surface left behind was exceptionally smooth, without any saw marks at all. The SawStop blade left a much rougher surface, which can be seen and felt. Even though I consider these 2 blades to be general purpose, they're technically designed for only cross cuts, not rip cuts. For a true general purpose blade, we're usually told we need a combination blade, like the $60 Freud, which has every 3rd tooth ground flat. But while I found the cuts with this blade to be acceptable, they weren't as nice as the Amana. On the hardwood crosscut, I got a little bit of scorching and some tear out on the backside. The plywood was rough to the touch, and there was still the expected tear out on the underside. And the rip cut left a rougher surface than either the SawStop or the Amana. So for a general purpose blade for both crosscuts and rips in solid wood, if I had to choose between these 3, I would choose the Amana 40-tooth blade. But for cutting veneered plywood, none of these blades perform very well. It's because they simply aren't designed for those fine cuts. For that, you need an 80-tooth blade. So let's compare this $90 SawStop titanium with a $104 Amana 610-800. These blades aren't designed for ripping thick hardwood, so I skipped that test. I only use them for cross-cutting. Let's see the results. Both blades left the hardwood end grain pretty smooth. To the touch, I would say the Amana was a little bit smoother, but it was close. The Amana also left slightly less tear out on the bottom. On the plywood, the difference was more noticeable. The SawStop left a rougher surface, which is more obvious when you run your fingers across it. And the SawStop blade left more tear out compared to the Amana. So if I'm cutting veneered plywood, and I have to choose between these 2 blades, I'm going to go with the Amana 80-tooth. Now, the 40-tooth and 80-tooth blades cover most dimensional cuts that I make, but for some joinery, like dados and tenons and box joints, I want a blade that will leave behind a true flat bottom kerf. In fact, a flat blade is so handy that I think it's essential for most workshops to have one of those, especially if you don't have a dado set. But they can be hard to find. Most rip blades leave a sort of bat-eared shaped kerf that looks terrible in exposed joinery. But both Freud and Amana do make a 24-tooth blade with a true flat grind. And as a bonus, they're also designed for heavy-duty ripping through thick materials. So I put them both to the test to see which one performed better. On the rip cuts, I found that both blades left behind marks, which was to be expected with such an aggressive tooth design, but the Amana again was significantly smoother. I'm not sure that it matters with these types of rip cuts, but the difference was enough to notice. Here I'm nibbling out the waste on a rabbet joint one kerf at a time. This is an example of how handy it is to have a blade with a flat grind. Both performed well. I think either one would look fine in an assembled joint, but there is no denying that the Amana blade left a smoother, flatter surface, both to the eye and to the touch. So again, the Amana 24-tooth flat grind blade is the one I would choose between these two for both aggressive rips and for joinery applications, although at around $90, it is considerably more expensive than the $60 Freud, so that's a consideration too. I have one more test to run. I have a Freud glue line blade that I pull out when I want a glassy smooth rip cut, especially if I'm edge gluing boards together to make up a wider panel. But that Amana 40-tooth general purpose blade left such a smooth surface in the tests that I wanted to see how it compared to my specialty Freud blade. The results were again surprising. The Freud left a little bit of a blade mark in the center, though that may have been from the workpiece just shifting a tiny bit mid-cut. Otherwise, the surfaces are equally smooth, even to the touch. So now I'm starting to think I don't need the added investment of a $63 specialty glue line rip blade. Overall, I have to say, I was surprised that Amana beat out both Freud and SawStop blades in the tests I ran. I'll continue to use and compare all these blades, and we'll see if my opinion changes over time, but so far the results speak for themselves. In the notes below the video, I'm putting the model numbers and the prices of all the blades I tested. There will also be links to the Amana blades if you want to try them out yourself and see if you agree. In fact, I got a hold of mywoodcutters.com where I got my blades, and they agreed to send me some so I can give them to 3 random subscribers of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal so they can see if they perform in their workshops as well as they did in ours. I'm going to send 1 blade to each of 3 different people. All you have to do is go to our website and subscribe to our email list. If you're already a subscriber, you're already entered into this and every other giveaway we do. And as you know, we never send out junk mail. Well, that's it for me. Happy table sawing.